بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبا القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء أما بعد يقول الله في محكم كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states within the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 156, and those who disaster strikes them, they say, indeed, we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we shall return. Inshallah, utilizing this particular verse in question as a platform for the topic tonight, as we come towards the final nights that we are commemorating Abu Abdullah al-Hussain, the maqtal being only days away, we remember the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah. We look at Muharram and Karbala in a holistic manner. When we come to discuss what occurred to Abu Abdullah, you have to understand that, subhanallah, the gift that keeps on giving, that throughout the world, every time someone comes forward to try to attack the flag of Abu Abdullah, it continues to thrive and multiply and grow and grow and grow. The tradition that we have from Sayyidah Zainab showcases that this is a godly affair, whereby she sees Imam Zain al-Abidin saddened one day. She comes to him, she says, مَا لِي أَرَاكَ تَجُودُ بِنَفْسِكَ يَا بَقِيَّةَ أَهْلِ. Why is it that I see you in such a saddened state, oh that which remains of my family? Then she begins to speak to him the words of wisdom from Sayyidah Zainab, the power of her foresight, the power of her certainty, the power of the knowledge that she possessed there and then when she said the famous lines, فَإِنَّهُ وَاللَّهِ عَهْدٌ مِنَ اللَّهِ لِجَدِّكَ وَأَبِيكَ وَلَيَجْتَمِعَنَّ أَئِمَّةَ الْكُفْرِ عَلَى مَحْيِهِ وَتَطْمِيسِهِ فَلَا يَزْدَادْ إِلَّا عُلُوًّا, stating that, oh, that which remains of my family, O Sajjad, that this that occurred within Karbala towards my brother Abu Abdullah is a covenant from before that was given from Allah towards your father and your grandfather. Then by Allah, that this message will persevere through days and nights. وَلَيَجْتَمِعَنَّ أَئِمَّةَ الْكُفْرِ عَلَى مَحْيِهِ وَتَطْمِيسِهِ. That the enemies, the tyrants, those that are unjust will come together jointly, trying to remove this name of Hussain, trying to remove this message and what it stood for, trying to remove these principles that Abu Abdullah died for. They're trying to remove that flag of Abu Abdullah. But what does Zainab say? However much they try, it doesn't fall. In fact, every time they try, it increases that flag in elevation, in elevation, in elevation. Now when we take this into perspective, that Sayyidah Zainab lays down the foundation, which is the importance and the longevity of Karbala. And we see around the world, indeed, however many times people tried to remove the name of Abu Abdullah, it continued to spread further and further across the world. Now you find in particular countries all over the world, there is a flag outside the houses, a flag outside the streets, flags that are hovering above skyscrapers, different languages, different traditions. different ceremonies of mourning, all to remember the sacrifice. But when we look at it, we say, and we always fall short, because whatever time we try and showcase Abu Abdullah, it's all but a drop in the ocean of knowledge that is there in Karbala. So in discussing it, many times we think, what are the different angles as speakers to talk about the tragedy of Karbala? Shall we discuss Karbala through the lens of history, showcasing the events that occurred previously and what led up towards Karbala in order for us to learn? Shall we look at Karbala through the lens of those that were there to see what allowed those enemies to become the enemies, whereas they also prayed, also fasted, also worshipped the one God, but they went on to kill Abu Abdullah? Do we look at it from a moral standpoint, how they ended up there and the companions of Hussain ended up there? So you see, there's different lenses that we can look into Karbala from. But oftentimes, there are particular lenses that we skip over, that we read but we do not stop at, contemplate over. Because when Abu Abdullah, we read what he spoke towards the enemies, what he reminded the enemies, the chances that he gave. For us, we look at them and we think to ourselves, yeah, that's the enemies. What can we gain? We understand when he's addressing them, in his address, had he said something that may make me fall into that category, I need to change from one side to the other. But if it doesn't apply to me, then, oh, Abu Abdullah, what can I learn from the words that you said, the speeches that you announced, or from the letters that you wrote, in order for me to take from your words to see how I should live my life? Oh, Abu Abdullah, you sacrificed yourself for me. But how much have I actually learned about what you said in your final moments? The legacy that you left behind, what should I take from that? When you begin to look at what he left behind, amongst the things that we often look over is a particular letter that is written. You see, different letters came from Kufa, went out to different parts towards the lands, particular ones that he wrote towards his family members. Then there was a letter that Abu Abdullah writes in Karbala. You see, previously, different notions occurred. But there's a letter that Abu Abdullah writes in Karbala. And he sends it towards his brother, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. And within it, there's a message where he says towards his brother, oh my brother, this is for you. When he reads it, he is responsible to give it to Bani Hashim and all those that follow Abu Abdullah, and indeed the message of Islam. What's written in this letter that has great significance? And what can we learn from this particular letter to apply within our lives to, one way or another, endeavor to push these two lines in this letter within our life to showcase to us how best to become the companions of the Hussain of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Allahumma The manner in which we're going to do this is we're going to ask a few questions. Like we always do, the first of these questions revolves around the personality of Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. Who was he? Who was his mother? How did he come into being in such a close proximity to Imam al-Hussain? Number two, what are the different letters that are there between Imam al-Hussain and Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah? And what are the contents of each of them? And when were they written? Number three, how is it that we can take and learn from the letter in question in Karbala? And what are the different levels of understanding that we need to reach through this particular letter? Number 4, what are the 4 different states of being whilst we exist within this world? When we take this particular letter, Imam Hussain says something within this letter, that the way that we understand it is by looking at the 4 different states of being within this world, how we live our life, 4 different states that we can categorize ourselves into. And finally, taking these letters and taking the 4 different states of being, we want to explore them through a line that Amir al-Mu'mineen says about the believers. Because ultimately what we want to do is take the knowledge from what Imam Hussain gives us in Karbala, saying, hold on to this and apply it within your life. How we should apply it, we go towards Amir al-Mu'mineen in one of his traditions to see how we should live our life to encompass into this particular tradition that we're going to mention tonight. And inshallah, by the end of it, we will have a firm understanding and a solid grasp of where we are in these 4 states and how we can move towards the most perfect of them. So inshallah, we can start the discussion tonight by blessing the majlis and indeed illuminating our hearts and minds with 3 of your salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. After Rasulullah returns back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we understand, the divisions after Rasulullah began. The struggle for power, the deception, the return to previous faiths, and indeed the wars that occurred there and then. All because a group of people were present in Ghadir Khum that bear witness to the hand of Amir al-Mu'mineen being raised and taking him as their rightful Khalifa and their Imam, and others that followed in the footsteps of the first, the second and the third. Amongst these personalities was a personality that once Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli, would say amongst his companions that the next person that enters our mosque will be that person which has a very high rank within the heavens. And at that very moment they would say that a person would enter, that the wudu water is dripping from his hands. That personality that enters is none other than a personality by the name of Malik ibn Nuwayra. Now, after Rasulullah returns towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll find many people after Ghadir Khum didn't go back towards Medina. They lived in tribes and villages that were outside Medina, outside Mecca. Malik ibn Nuwayra lived outside Medina, and he would make a trip every few months to come towards Rasulullah and gain from his knowledge and offload the charities, the sadaqat. Now after Ghadir Khum, you'll find Malik ibn Nuwayra returns towards his village, seeing the hands of Amir al-Mu'mineen being raised. Once he sees the hand, when he returns, he sees all of a sudden Rasulullah has returned back towards his Lord. But when he looks inside the masjid, the person sitting on the chair of Rasulullah wasn't Amir al-Mu'mineen. So he begins to ask the question, where is the one that Rasulullah appointed on this throne? And they would say, you'll find him in his house. But why do you ask, O Malik? He would say, I have the sadaqah with me, and I need to offload it to the rightful heir of Rasulullah. But I do not see him sitting on that throne of Khilafah. So they would say, no, the Khalifa is now Abu Bakr. And he'd say, no, I know what I saw and I know what I heard. This money does not leave me lest it goes in the rightful hands. And you'll find in the long story that he returns back towards his village, not having given that sadaqah towards Abu Bakr. And many of us would know the story where Khalid ibn al-Walid is given permission to go and collect it in any means necessary. Now, amongst the atrocities and the devastating history within Islam is this particular incident that even in or found in Sunni literature, that of the 10 that are guaranteed paradise, Khalid and Malik. But you'll find Khalid kills Malik, decapitating him and performing the rest of the acts that he did that I won't mention from the pulpits for its gruesome nature. And he performs particular aspects with his family members. Amongst his return, he brings everyone that's in the village as captives. When he brings them as captives, uproar about how and what occurred from even the first and second amongst themselves. These captives of war, the uproar in Medina, you'll find Amir al-Mu'mineen would enter. When he would enter, he sees that which is happening. Many events occur there and then, but one of these personalities that were sitting there looks towards Ali, and she says, "Who are you?" And he says, "My name is Ali ibn Abi Talib." Then she says to him, "Are you the Ali that on that Friday we witnessed Rasulullah from a distance raise your hand?" He says, "I am that person, yes." She says, "Oh Ali, look at the words. لِأَجْلِكَ أُصِبْنَا. It's because of you, O Ali, that we are in this position. Because we believed in you, O Ali, we are in this state. O Ali, this is a test for us." You know the tradition that come across when Rasulullah comes, a person says, "Oh Rasulullah, I love you." He says, "Are you sure you love me?" He says, "Yeah, of course, I love you, O Rasulullah." He says, "Therefore, I have guidance for you." What's the guidance? He says, "The guidance is that prepare yourself for poverty. If you love me, in this message, Khadija gave everything, but of the state of being, she did not have a shroud to cover her body. Prepare yourself for poverty." He says, "What else?" He says, "Oh Rasulullah, my heart also loves Amir al-Mu'mineen." And he says, "Okay, then you have to prepare for poverty, but now you have to also prepare for calamities." Why? Rasulullah is saying to him, if you love Ali, you have to understand that in any way, shape or form, everything unjust, shaitan of the jinn and the ins will try to attack that which is the truth. So prepare yourself for what lies ahead for you. Amongst those that were inflicted and affected was this lady that says, "Oh Ali, it's because of you we're taken captive. Because of our love for you, we've been attacked." In this incident, that lady, his name was Khawla bint al-Hanafiya. Amir al-Mu'mineen marries this lady, and from her a son by the name of Muhammad, son of Hanafiya. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, now becomes a brother of Hassan and Hussain, of Abbas. Now many people speak about Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya from different events that occurred within history. But however, we understand Muhammad to be a valiant warrior. And from the dialogue between him and Imam al-Hussain, you begin to see that the respect and the love they had for one another, especially when he's given these letters. On top of that, we understand that he was entrusted with these letters from Imam al-Hussain to take them and carry them and showcase them to the people. The same Muhammad in Siffin, people tried to corrupt his mind. They said, "Oh Muhammad, you're the one on the front lines. Ali's trying to put you on the front lines, that you're in danger where Hassan and Hussain are behind." They try in any way to try to push people or make people think of different ways to corrupt them, to bring them towards the army of Muawiyah. He says, no. Look at the certainty and the vision of Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya. He would say, no. You've thought about it wrong. He says that Hassan and Hussain are the two eyes of my father and I'm his hand. And it is the obligation of the hand to protect the eyes whenever it needs protection. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah is given 2 letters by Imam al-Hussain. One of which is the one that many times on the pulpits we hear these particular phrases. When we come across them, and I'm going to read this particular letter so you understand which one we are speaking about from the pulpits. After Muhammad ibn Hanafiyyah comes towards Imam al-Hussain and he speaks to him before he leaves towards Kufa. They exchange ideas and they begin to embrace each other, crying for an hour, as the tradition would say. Then Imam al-Hussain writes a letter for him, which he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إن الحسين يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله. ما صلى. جاء بالحق من عند الحق وأن الجنة والنار حق وأن الساعة حق لا ريب فيها وإن الله يبعث من في القبور وإني لم أخرج أشرا ولا بطرا ولا مفسدا ولا ظالما وإنما خرجت لإطلاب الإصلاح أو لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي أريد أن أأمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر وأسير بسيرة جدي وأبي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل. The famous letter that we always hear, that this is the reason why I have done what I've done. I've come out against Yazid and these are my reasons. And we often see this, that I want to make sure that I solidify the religion of my father. I want to forbid evil and enjoin good and follow in the same path as my grandfather and Father Ali. Now that's one, very famous, we all know the words. And this was written in Medina before Imam al-Hussain would go towards Kufa. But the second one is the one we don't often hear. And this is the one, if we were to take something from that which occurred in Karbala, from guidance from Imam al-Hussain, this is the letter written in Karbala for us. In Karbala it was written and sent towards Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. But look at how beautiful, eloquent and precise the Imam is with what he says. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. من الحسين بن علي إلى محمد بن علي. أما بعد, furthermore, فكأن الدنيا لم تكن وكأن الآخرة لم تزل والسلام. 2 lines. 2 lines. Letter sent. What does he say? He says, furthermore, it's as if the dunya has never been. And it's as if the hereafter has always existed. 2 lines. What can we learn from these lines? We need to take something from Karbala, these 10 nights, and apply it within ourselves. What can we take just from these particular lines from Imam al-Hussain? Imam lays down the foundations for us of existence. He says, if you really want salvation, I am the ark of salvation. I am the beacon of guidance. You want to follow me? Follow these 2 words. But how do we follow? Because they're not really guidelines. It's just telling us a state of thinking, a state of being. It's as if this world has never been and the akhirah has always existed. What's he saying? In the many different lenses you can look at this. It's 2 lines, but you know how many people will write and write and write about these 2 lines and the extent of its meanings, but will never suffice the true essence and true meaning. One of the lenses they look at this, they say Imam is trying to tell you that this thing that you have, this world that you live in, everything, but a few years of your life comparatively speaking to those hereafter. You know, the longest prophet, life-wise, on his lifespan, different prophets lived for different periods of time. They say that amongst the longest that lived on this earth is Nabi Allah Nuh. In the Quran, it showcased to us just how many years he preached. 1,000 years minus 50. How many years? 950 years. He just did tabligh towards the people, guiding them towards Allah. 950 years. Just speaking. $950 they would say 70, 80 individuals would enter into Islam. 70 or 80. How many is that every 100 years? They would say that he would live in traditions up to, in the longer traditions, 4,000 years. So like our lifespan would be like a blink for him, wouldn't it? Comparatively speaking. So the angel comes down, angel of death. Nabi Allah Nuh, I'd like to ask you before I extract your soul. He says, ask. He says, you've lived such a long life. How did you view this world? He would say, it's as if I entered one door and I'm exiting another. Entering one, exiting another. He says, I know this world, comparatively speaking, towards the akhirah. He says, you know how you have the ocean? You look at the ocean in its vastness, we understand how it all connects. He says, this world, comparatively speaking to the hereafter, is not even a drop. You know how you say a drop in an ocean? That's what it is. He says, no, no. It's like a humidity on your fingers, comparatively speaking to the ocean. Not water, just a humidity. And we live in this world thinking that we are going to live forever. He says, no, no, no. Remember, first and foremost, that this world is very much going to end and you won't even feel it. Nothing, comparatively speaking to the hereafter. He says, remember this. The understanding we can take from this is once we understood that we need to remove ourselves or our hearts or our minds or our attachments from this world and reattach it with the hereafter. So what is he saying? He says, كأن dunya lam takun. As if the world has never been. So when he says world, one of the translations say that when he says world, he's talking about attachments. He says anything you attach yourself with in this world, it's like it's never been. You're not going to take it with you, lest it's your actions. So he says this world means, in the translation, your attachments within this world. That you strive every day for these attachments to gain a position of power, to gain wealth, to gain governorship, to gain, whatever have you. Any attachment. It's as if it's never been. It says it's as if the hereafter has always existed. Always. Knowing this, that we need to detach ourselves from this world and attach ourselves to the hereafter. Because that's the guidelines he gives us in Karbala. You want salvation? You need to apply this to your life. If we take this, we begin to understand that that is eventually where we want to go towards. But there are barriers and there are incentives. Amongst the barriers that we have, the main barrier is the love of this world. That's the main barrier. Main barrier is the love of this world. But if you were to look at the incentive, which is the closeness towards the mercy of Allah, you'll begin to understand above all else nothing really matters. But it's the fact that we've never tasted that connection with Allah, that everything else we're rid of from our life. We have 4 different states of existence within this world. Look at the beautiful 4 states that are showcased to us. They say that the first of these four is a person that goes from the world to the world. From the world to the world. The second, they say he goes from this world to the hereafter. The third, from the hereafter to this world. And number four, he goes from the akhirah to the akhirah. World to world, world to akhirah, akhirah to world, akhirah to akhirah. Let's explain each one to understand a little bit more. What do we mean about these four different states? The first one, from the dunya to the dunya, from this world to this world, meaning you live your life as such that everything you do, that you focus on, that you revolve your day is solely for this world. I need to wake up early, not for salah. I need to wake up early because I have a business meeting. But I'll do salah in the meantime. You know, because I'm up anyway. I'm going to wake up for a Champions League final. Not for salah, Champions League final. I'm going to make sure I'm prepared to pray Maghrib and Isha versus, no, I'm up. I'm going to pray between the two halves of a soccer match. When the world presents itself and the akhirah presents itself, you always choose the world. Hussain calls, night of Abu Fadl al-Abbas, Euro final. And we talk about it, we giggle. But when we look back in a year's time, 2 years' time, you're like, did I really, actually leave the night of Abu Fadl al-Abbas that died for me to have guidance to go watch a match? From the world to the world. I want to attach myself to Hussain. I have to detach from this world. So he says the first state of being is a personality is only there for this world. Anything else he just kind of, you know, slots in, either to showcase people or to kind of tick it off the checkbox. No soul within it, no ma'rifah, no connection, no knowledge within it. Doesn't matter to them. What matters is I need to gain more money. I need to gain more wealth, more position, more status. More possessions, more. It's all worldly, worldly, worldly. From the world to the world. Second, let's look at the second from the hereafter to the world. Then we'll go to the other ones. So how does someone go from the hereafter towards the world? Because usually, you know, we use this world to go to the hereafter. And he says, no, the second state of being is from the hereafter to the world, to this transient world. How? Sometimes a person can be gifted a place through the divine blessings of Allah, a position where he is able to, in one way or another, serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a position where he is able to preach Islam, be a part of the body that is responsible to be a vessel to take the knowledge, the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and showcase it towards the people. A personality that may be heading a center, a personality may be heading a community, a personality that's in charge of organizations that is able to give back. That person's right now in the hereafter, isn't he? He or she, I should say. But all of a sudden, shaitan comes in. The sincerity that person once had dilutes and dilutes and dilutes. That person could have gained followers online. He's got too many likes. The world does not fit him anymore. So therefore, he goes down. Something comes forward of a business deal. He was up, shaitan comes to him and he falls. So the second state of being is that when Allah bestows something upon you, that you've lived your life not heeding or taking heed towards all those signs around you, that you begin to descend back towards this world. The third, from this world to the akhirah. But before we discuss it, inshallah, I've just been asked if you can all come as close to the minbar as possible. With your three salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah. Muhammad. Allah. Allah. So the third, from this world to the hereafter. And that's the one that we see ourselves going towards. That our whole mission is to hold on to the rope to gain us closer towards the hereafter, to remind us of the hereafter. You know, sometimes when we really look at things and put it, it's all pieces of a puzzle. Islam, pieces of a puzzle. Hadith here, Quran verse here, tradition here, sunnah here, bring it together, you see the image. So the first state of being from this dunya towards the hereafter, to the akhirah, to the haqq, we take the example of salat. Salah is the mi'raj of the mu'mineen. When you come and you stand in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you say, you know what, everything in this world doesn't matter. You've called me at exactly 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, I'm on that prayer mat. Allah, you've called upon me. I have worldly things to attend to, but they are nothing, because all I can see is where I want to be in the hereafter. When I am on that prayer mat, I say, oh Allah, I see the bounties ahead of me. I want to detach from this world and attach towards the world that you have awaiting me. You know, sometimes with these barriers that we have, the attachment from this world that we have. You know, I was watching, as we do, within social media, there are things that come up that sometimes you contemplate over. And there was a child, just to show you, if we want to put it into our perspective, there was a child that a father showing to them how they do not know what awaits them. So he puts a particular biscuit in front of him, and he puts $10,000. So he says, you know, which one do you choose? So for us, understanding the value of both, we know what we choose. Biscuit? No, the $10,000. So the child's gone for the biscuit straight away. Why? Because his desire is that he wants to taste that pleasure. And the father tells him, by the way, if you take the 10,000, do you know how many biscuits you can actually get? This many. He goes, I can just see this. Bring it. You can? You sure? Last chance? He goes, you know, I want the biscuit. For us, we laugh at that because he goes, you know, because he doesn't have any understanding of what he's losing out on. For us, it's the exact same thing. The desires, the attachments, that which Iblis puts in front of us to be like, you know what, get that desire now. You can taste it, you can see it. You can attain it, it's graspable, it's in front of you. Allah says, leave that in this world. I have something waiting for you. But we don't see it with certainty, do we? Had we seen it with certainty, like Aba Abdullah, take. I want you, O Allah. The fourth, as we understand, is from the akhirah to the akhirah. How? How does someone go from the akhirah to the akhirah? We know that most of us go from this dunya, we understand our mission, the realities of things, and then we go towards the akhirah through the means. They say no. The fourth, from the akhirah to the akhirah, because never did they gaze upon everything in this world whatsoever. Everything to them is the same. All they see is what they want to attain from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we understand these things? We understand these things through the different words of Ahlul Bayt. One of them that showcases to us how we can use this world. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Allahumma salli ala. Look at these words and take them home tonight. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, how should we live in this world? We understand we have to detach and attach. How do we detach from this world and attach to the hereafter? He says, very simple. He says, وَمَنْ أَبْصَرَ بِهَا, talking about the dunya. وَمَنْ أَبْصَرَ بِهَا بَصَّرَتْهُ وَمَنْ أَبْصَرَ إِلَيْهَا أَعْمَتْهُ. Look at these words, look how powerful they are. He says the dunya, whomever looks through the dunya will give him foresight. Whomever looks at the dunya will become blind. The dunya is there. We look at it to be evil. No, use it as a lens to see how I can reach the high ranks of the akhirah. Use it as a lens. If you were to use this dunya to see how best I can perform my actions to gain the most in my akhirah, he says you will get that vision. You will get that foresight. But if you look at the dunya as the final abode, he says that lens that you look towards dunya will make you blind. And you will not be able to see the akhirah. Imagine if we were to switch that lens. Can you imagine? When you look at Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. We see that throughout his life, he's always looking at the akhirah. 19th. Before he was struck, his daughter brings him a plate. He's fasting. He's fasting, his daughter brings him a plate. 3 items. My daughter, do you want my stay in the hereafter to be lengthy? We're looking at food. He's looking at my judgment in the hereafter. Looking at that food. You and I, would we ever look at this and think to ourselves, akhirah, hisab, longevity of my stay, being questioned. Amir, he sees food in front of him, but he also sees the akhirah. You know, we look at the companions sometimes, and we say, how do they have this concept of zuhud? You know, because as the followers of Ahlul Bayt, many times people think and preach even, that you shouldn't have luxury cars, you shouldn't have big bank balances, that you shouldn't have a glorious house. No, who said that? As the followers, you should endeavor, like Rasulullah would say, that live in this world, or work within this world as if you're going to live forever. But worship and pray like you're going to die tomorrow. The way that you live, as long as it's halal, get the best of things. Have the best items. Have the biggest bank balances, no problem. But have zuhud. What does zuhud mean? That whatever you have, you control it. It does not control you. You know the detachment we spoke about? That you're allowed to have whatever you can gain in this world, and halal means. Have. But make sure it does not allow you to slip. It doesn't control you. You control it. Many a times we see within history, many people fell because they had an attachment to this world. They knew the truth, but because they had an attachment. Umar ibn Sa'ad, we said a few nights ago, the governorship, he knew. He goes, I know I'm going to go kill the son of the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma. But he says, you know what? I'm attached to the world. I want the governorship. Shimr likewise, when he goes towards Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, he says the famous lines, إملأ ركابي فضة أو ذهبا إني قتلت السيد المحجبا قتلت خير الناس أما وأبا. What does he say? Shimr. إملأ ركابي, fill with gold and silver, for I have killed the man that has the greatest mother, greatest father. They knew the truth from falsehood. Attachment to the world. Attachment. Look what happens. Ubaydullah ibn al-Hurr al-Ju'fi. Long story for him, by the way. Gist of it, Imam Hassain, many stations he stops between Medina to go towards Kufa. Many stations. 17, 18 stations he stops. Different lessons that we can learn from these stations. Amongst them was one where this personality was. He comes to him and he asks him, by the way, I have an opportunity for you. If you join our ranks, I will guarantee you heaven and salvation. You know, Imam comes to you. No brainer, yeah? Ubaidullah says, you know, Hussein, I know following you is salvation. But my heart is attached to this world. But Hussein, take my horse. Never have I ran away from someone that they caught me. And take my sword. Never did I strike anything until I split it into two. Have these. Imam Hussein, many of us, sometimes you go, we'd like your help. Assist us. You know, carry this. Do this. And you're like, no, he's this. I don't want to put my hands into things. I know, you know, helping, etc. He goes, but just take this. Hussein gets angry with him. You know, just as subhanAllah, so just as a side note, many of us would have seen the Karbala project just outside. And we think to ourselves, you know, the youth and the elders came to showcase the tragedy of Karbala. Such is an example of someone that has gone out of their ways to serve in their own ways, Abu Abdullah. To showcase how people are able to come together, assist each other, to serve. We see these things occur. Imam Hassain, when he gets up, he says to him, do you really think that I'm in need of your sword or your horse? I'm offering you salvation. You're offering me metal and a horse. I'm offering you salvation. So like Imam Hussain needed the horse to run away from people. I mean, seriously. He says, keep them. But make sure, O Ubaidullah, that you're not here. Pack up your tents. Because if you hear my cry and you do not come to assist, there is a punishment. Punishment. And there are levels when we come closer and closer. If we really want to attain this aspect of detaching from this world and attaching to the hereafter. Levels. There's a tradition, very beautiful tradition. Companions, Salman, Muhammadi, Abu Dhar. They're sitting together, breaking their fast. Look at this tradition. Salman brings, to break the fast, hard bread and water. So he brings hard bread, water in front of Abu Dhar, and they eat. Whilst they're eating, Abu Dhar says the few lines. He says, how beautiful it would be if we had a little bit of salt to push on top of it. Salman gets up, goes outside with a pot, returns with salt. Gives him salt, puts the salt, Abu Dhar on his bread. He says these lines. He says, Alhamdulillah that Allah has granted us with qana'ah. Qana'ah, if we want to translate it, is to be sufficed with what you have. Alhamdulillah that Allah has allowed us to be sufficed and happy with what we have. Salman's looking at him, he's like, if you were happy, you wouldn't have asked for salt, would you? My pot wouldn't be with that man in order for me to bring you the salt. Ranks. That's why they say Salmanun minna ahl al-bayt. Salman Muhammadi, we call him, has a high rank. What can we learn from this? To see at the highest stages, what can we become? Sermon 193, Nahj al-Balagha. Amir al-Mu'mineen speaks towards a personality. This personality's name is Humam. In most traditions. You know the story where Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says a particular speech towards a personality. By the end of the speech he dies? This is the one. Because he did not understand what it takes to be of the ranks of the muttaqeen. Amongst them, just to showcase to you, if you were to detach from this world and attach to the hereafter, how would we be? How would we be? Look at the sermon. Look at what it says. About the people that are muttaqeen. He says, لولا أجل الذي كتب الله عليهم. Had it not been for Allah prescribing a certain death upon them, لم تستقر أرواحهم في أجسادهم طرفة عين. That had it not been that they know that they're going to die in this particular moment, that their souls would not remain within their bodies a twinkling of an eye. Why? شوقا إلى ثواب وخوفا من العقاب. In longing for the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in fear of the punishment that awaits. Now look at these lines. It says, عظم الخالق في أنفسهم فصغر ما دونه في عيونهم. Why? How did they achieve this? They achieved it by allowing Allah to resonate greater within their life. Because they've allowed Allah more within their life, everything alongside became nothing, comparatively speaking, with the existence of Allah. What's the effect that has on you when you allow Allah within your life, within your heart, within your soul, within your actions? فهم والجنة كمن قد رآها فهم فيها منعمون وهم والنار كمن قد رآها فهم فيها معذبون. You want to reach that rank? Have Allah within your life. Detach from this world. Attach to Allah and the hereafter. When you live your life, look at what Amir al-Mu'minin says. If you were to live your life in that state, he would say that when you live, remember, from the akhirah to the akhirah, Amir is saying, when you are in this world, you travel in this world, but whenever you hear about Jannah, whenever you read about Jannah, when you read the Quran, and it promises you those bounties within Jannah, فَهُمْ وَالْجَنَّةِ كَمَنْ قَدْ رَآهَا, it's as if they see it within their eyes. فَهُمْ فِيهَا مُنَعَمُونَ, not just they see it, it's as if they are seeking that pleasure from Allah. They are gaining that bounty there and then. كَمَنْ قَدْ رَآهَا فَهُمْ فِيهَا مُنَعَمُونَ. And it also says on the flip side, whenever they hear verses about hellfire, about punishment, you know, look at it, they see sin around them. كَمَنْ قَدْ رَآهَا وَهُمْ وَالنَّارِ كَمَنْ قَدْ رَآهَا. When you look at a bad deed, he sees the fire. It's as if he's being punished. فَهُمْ فِيهَا. It's as if they're being punished. It's as if they're inside. مُعَذَّبُونَ. It's as if they feel the torture whenever they hear it, whenever they see the sin, whenever they hear about someone sinning. You imagine being in that state? Imagine being in that state. How different would you be? If you begin to see how small this world is and how transient, limited. The tradition, when it says that the dunya embodied itself, came towards Amir al-Mu'minin, what does he say? He says, طَلَّقْتُكِ ثَلَاثَةً لَا رَجْعَةَ لِي فِيهَا. I've divorced you 3 times. Why are you coming to me? 3 times I've divorced you. Look at how I eat, how I drink, how I live my life. Khalifa of the time. You know what the Khulafa did before him? No one would know who they are, what they look like, that came after in Islam. No one knew. Palaces, royalty, money, wealth. Amir al-Mu'mineen, you know, he'd go into the streets, he'd see that which is wrong, he would correct it. That which is right, he would reward it. Who are you? You're the Khalifa of the time. Why are you alongside us? And it has a statement, it says, لَقَدْ رَقَعْتُ مِدْرَعَتِي حَتَّى اسْتَحْيَيْتُ مِنْ رَاقِعِهَا. لَقَدْ رَقَعْتُ مِدْرَعَتِي حَتَّى اسْتَحْيَيْتُ مِنْ رَاقِعِهَا. You know what that means? He says, that which I wear as a Khalifa of 50 plus countries nowadays. He says, the clothes that I wear, he says, I've patched it so many times, that I'm embarrassed to go towards that person that sews it for me. You know who that person was? Imam Hassain. He would sew the garments of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He would say, I would be embarrassed to go to my own son. That's how many times I fixed my garment as a Khalifa. You know the famous tradition when you go towards the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, I saw, Kumail suggests, he says, I saw Masjid al-Kufa, Amir al-Mu'mineen is flapping his clothes. He's on the pulpit. As a Khalifa, 50 plus states, he's just moving his clothes. So, you know, Kumail is thinking, you know, there's something with it. Every time Amir says something, I'll go and learn from him. So he says, Ya Ali, is there a reason? Is there a sign? This gesture of yours, I know, there's something with it. What is it, O Amir al-Mu'minin? He says, Ya Kumail, I am the Khalifa of the time. Allah witnesses that this is the only garments I have in my house. I have not another set of clothes. I washed them and I'm waiting for them to dry. That's why I'm moving them. Khalifa. Why? His eyes is all about the Akhirah. And in Karbala, likewise. In fact, the people in Karbala were shown their position in the Akhirah. Shown their position. They had no attachment in this world. Nothing that controlled them to perform that which is right. Stand up against oppression. Die alongside the son of the daughter of Rasulullah. But how difficult was it to give all that in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And they say that there was a man that was not a Muslim. This man, one day he woke up in the midst of the nights, having seen Rasulullah in his dream. He says, when I saw Rasulullah, just the beauty of Rasulullah resonated within my heart. He says, I wanted to go towards the mosque so I may give my shahada. From what? Just seeing Rasulullah within my dream and being guided by him, just the beauty itself was enough for me. He would say, when I went towards the masjid, I saw Hussain ibn Ali sitting there. He would come, he would say that I told Hussain ibn Ali the dream. When he would tell Hussain ibn Ali the dream, he would say that I know that Rasulullah has passed away. I know it's many years after Rasulullah. He says, but how beautiful was the face of Rasulullah. He says, I want to become Muslim because of that face and that face alone. Hussain would look at him and he says, would you like to see the face of Rasulullah again? He says, how? He's passed away. He says, go and call me my son Ali al-Akbar. كان أشبه الناس خلقا وخلقا برسول الله. Appearance, mannerisms resembled Rasulullah, that whenever they would look at Ali, they would see Rasulullah. The man would look towards Ali entering the mosque. When he would enter the mosque, the man, it says, would faint. When he awoke, he says, I could not believe the same beauty I saw in my dreams, I just saw walking towards me. Hussain looks at him and he says, oh man, what would you do if something of a thorn would hurt the feet of this boy? Just the feet of this boy. He says, I would not control myself from the pain that I would feel. This was a normal person. Now imagine what the father of Ali would feel in Karbala. They would say that the most proud moment, the happiest moment, the moment in which a person would rejoice as a father is when he would hold his son in his hands. When he's first born, when you have a son, you hold him in his hands, it's as if the world is not big enough for you. How happy you are to hold that son of yours in your hands, looking upon his eyes and his eyes looking towards you. But how many times have you given towards, oh Allah, oh Hussain, after seeing that son of yours? Ali al-Akbar, I want you to imagine the most difficult time for a father. If the happiest is holding your newborn, what's the most difficult time for you as a father, I ask you? Sukaina narrates, she would say, in the tragedies of Karbala, there's many a tragedy that I saw Hussain go through, my father, and it hurt him. But there were 4 specific times that I thought the breath of my father would stop, that he would not then draw another breath of how he was breathing. I would have thought there and then that his soul would leave his body. 4 times in Karbala. They would ask her, which are these 4 times? She would say, of these 4, 3 of them were alongside Ali al-Akbar in Karbala. They would ask, which is the first of these moments, O Sakina. She would say the first moment that I saw my father Hussain struggling for air is when Ali al-Akbar would come towards him, telling him, "Oh Father Hussain, give me permission to go towards the battlefield." The first time your Imam would struggle to breathe, when Ali al-Akbar would come and ask, "Oh Hussein, allow me to go and fight, allow me to sacrifice myself." Sukaina would say, "I saw my father struggling to breathe." When he would struggle, he wouldn't give permission, but he would remain silent. Ali al-Akbar would understand that it would hurt Hussein to give him verbal permission, but he understood that the permission is granted. They would say that Ali, son of Hussein, would go out towards the enemies. When he would go out, they would say that Hussein was watching Ali al-Akbar as he's striking the enemies. People would surround Ali al-Akbar. Again, Ali would rid himself of the enemies. They would say in traditions that the mother of Ali was there in Karbala. The traditions that suggest that she would say that she would look towards the face of Hussein whilst she's looking towards Ali al-Akbar. They would say that when Layla would look towards Hussein, Hussein smiling, all of a sudden the face of Abu Abdullah would change. Layla would say to him, "Oh Hussein, why is it that your face all of a sudden has changed? Oh Hussein, please tell me, is my Akbar okay? Or has he fallen? Oh Abu Abdullah." He would say, "Layla, no, he's still alive, but I see someone coming towards him that I'm very fearful. Maybe the reason of why Ali al-Akbar would become hurt." She would say, "What can I do, oh Hussein?" He would say, "Oh Layla, go and pray, for by Allah, He will accept the dua of a mother." She would go inside the tents. Layla would pray, saying, "Oh Allah, my Akbar is in Karbala. Oh, the one that returned Yusuf towards his father, return my Akbar towards me." She would continue to be in that state until she faints. When she faints, Ali al-Akbar would return. He would say, "Father Hussein, look at the lines of Ali al-Akbar. Aba ya Hussein, inna al-atash qad qatalani." That the thirst has killed me, O Hussein. وَثِقْلُ الْحَدِيدِ قَدْ أَجْهَدَنِي. And the weight of the sword is taking a lot out of me, O Hussein. It's difficult to be thirsty, carrying the sword, fighting in the manner that we do, O Abu Abdullah. He would say, "Oh Ali, your mother is in the tents. Your mother is waiting for you, O Ali." Ali enters the tents, sees his mother on the floor, fainted. However much he tried to wake her up, she would not regain consciousness. Imagine those moments. Layla did not know that Ali was next to her. They would say that all of a sudden, while he's trying to wake his mother, he hears a cry from outside the tent. "Ala min nasirin yansuruna, ala min dhabin yadhubu an hurami Rasulillah." Is there no one to assist us? Is there no one to protect the family of Rasulullah? Ali al-Akbar, upon hearing this, he would rush out of the tent. He would say, "Labbaik Abu Abdullah, I am here. Let me go and defend you." Before he goes, he asks Hussein one thing. He says, "Aba ya Abu Abdullah, Aba ya Hussein, ala min sharbati ma." Is there no water, O Hussein? I am very thirsty. You know what Hussein would say? He would say, "My son, Ali," and this is a moment, by the way, when Ali asks Hussein, "Is there no water?" Sakina would say, "That is the second moment that I thought that Abu Abdullah's soul would leave his body, that his son would ask him for water, his son being thirsty in front of him, his son wanting from him, but he could not give him water. She would say, I heard his breathing change. I thought Hussain was going to die there and then. But he would say, oh Ali, look at my tongue. If there is any moisture, take it from it. You know what Ali al-Akbar would say? He would say, Father Hussain, oh Aba Abdullah, your tongue is drier than mine. Your tongue, oh Hussain, is drier than mine. Then he would go towards the battlefield. All of a sudden, Hussain is seeing Ali al-Akbar fight. They would say that he would strike down 200 of the men. When he's striking, you'll find that he becomes tired. Of the people that approach Ali al-Akbar, under the watchful eye of Hussain, he sees someone from a distance coming towards Ali. He comes towards Ali with a spear. As Ali is fighting, they surround Ali al-Akbar, not allowing him to fight one-on-one. From every angle they're striking Ali. One man would take a spear and place it in the chest of Ali al-Akbar. Whilst he places the spear in the chest of Ali, Ali's head goes down to try to remove that spear. Whilst Ali's head goes down, a man brings a pole and he strikes the head of Ali al-Akbar. Ali falls on his horse. The traditions say he hugs the neck of the horse he was riding. But they would say the horse knew exactly where the mukhayyam of Aba Abdullah was. But the strike on the head of Ali was so severe that the blood would gush from the head of Ali al-Akbar, would cover the eyes of the horse. The horse, thinking it's going towards the mukhayyam, instead would go towards the army of Yazid. Whilst he enters the army, they would say that everyone would strike the body of Ali al-Akbar as the horse passes them. Imam al-Hussain would see Ali al-Akbar being struck by the enemies into pieces. He would see the embodiment of Rasulullah being struck into pieces. And the last moments of Ali, you know what he says? We understand when someone says, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Aba Abdullah has to reply to say, Wa alayka salam. Ali al-Akbar has knowledge of this. He doesn't say, Assalamu alayka ya Abati. He says, Alayka minni salam. Lest Hussain has to reply because of how thirsty Hussain was. He would say, Alayka minni salam. Aba ya Hussain. Ali falls towards the plains of Karbala on the sand. You know what the tradition says? The tradition says Imam al-Hussain runs out, runs. But Zainab tells him, hold on Hussain, Hussain, where are you going? Oh Aba Abdullah. He's saying, I'm going to attend the body of Ali al-Akbar. Zainab would say, Hussain, Ali is not this way. Hussain, Ali is the other way. Why? He would say, Zainab, do not blame me, for I do not see after Ali. He goes towards Ali al-Akbar. How many times did he fall? How many times did he pick himself up? They would say this very moment right now is one that the armies of Umar ibn Sa'ad would have to look away because they could not handle what's just about to happen. They would say that even Umar ibn Sa'ad would remain to cry seeing what Hussain was doing, so much so that he, with that heart that he had, the darkened heart, had to turn away because of the tragedy that's just about to happen. They would say when Hussain would reach the body of his son Ali al-Akbar, that he would lie side by side with Ali on the plains of Karbala in front of the enemies. He would lie side by side next to Ali al-Akbar. He would hug Ali. He would place his cheek on the cheek of Ali al-Akbar. He would say, على الدنيا بعدك العفا what value does this world have after you, O Ali? They would say that Ali would smile for moments because he was thirsty, remember? But after that he would begin to cry. Hussain would ask Ali, why do you smile? Why do you cry? He would say, Father Hussain, I smile because now after I was thirsty in Karbala, Rasulullah has brought me water from Kawthar, that I am no longer thirsty, O Aba Abdullah. He would say, okay, then why is it that you cry? Oh, Ali al-Akbar, he says, after Rasulullah would give me the water, I'd look behind him, I'd see your mother Fatima. She would say, wa walada, wa ghariba, wa atshana. And she is slapping herself, oh my father. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين.